Well, Coach JC did it. He went back to back as the head coach of UCF, won another natty. Let's do an end of season update. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome back into JC CFB, where you can see all kinds of college football 25 and soon to be college football 26 news updates and content here with me, JC. Here today, going to get into an end of season update, take a look at the end of season team stats, individual stats, and of course the coaching record now of Coach JC following another good performance in the college football playoffs and then winning a natty. Hopefully, I had a chance to check that game, the win over Pittsburgh that dropped earlier today on the channel. Wanted to do an end of season update now that the playoffs were done before I run through the offseason. Then I'll do a preseason update before we head into year 3 for Coach JC. 2 successful years as an offensive coordinator under his belt, and now 2 really successful years as a head coach, winning back-to-back natties at UCF. But here's how things shook out stat-wise for his players, his team, and of course his coaching record now. All right, so postseason update after beating the Pitt Panthers, hashtag eat shit Pitt, if you know, you know. But 84-59 victory for Coach JC. He goes back-to-back, wins the 2026 National Championship and the 2027. So we'll be looking to head into year 3, going for 3 in a row now after another nice season. But let's do an end of season wrap up here now that we're done with the postseason. I'll try and update you guys after I go through the offseason as well before we head into the next year. But team stats. In the year as the number 1 offense in college football, nearly 9,000 yards of total offense. Passing offense, number 1 in the nation there as well. Number 1 rushing offense in the country. Number 1 in the country in scoring. Number 1 in passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, and first downs. So across the board, one of the best teams in college football on offense. Defensively, now, not giving up a ton of total yardage, but what we did well that made us a really good team was getting a ton of sacks, led the nation there, and then led the nation in interceptions by a long shot as well with 41 of those. So some individual stats from the season. Of course, Chris Johnson Jr., our running back, was the Heisman winner, so we may as well just start there. Over 2,000 yards, 2,100 yards, 28 touchdowns, and he added another 2 touchdowns receiving and 172 yards there. A quarterback who had the best game of this season there in the natty when we needed him to. Nearly 4,000 yards, 3 yards short of it. 44 TDs. Got to get him to cut down on the interceptions next season, hopefully, though. But as a redshirt freshman, can't ask for much more than what he did. Also running for 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns. My freshman running back, Camacho. Man, he was a good recruit for me. 453 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing, but where he really made a difference, 2 kick return touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, and 4 punt return touchdowns. So 6 touchdowns he gave us on special teams alone there. The backup quarterback, Gillikin, we put in some games when either Small was briefly injured or had really high wear and tear, and so we wanted to take him out. So Gillikin, when he played, 247 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing, and then another 618 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. And then receiving, Kason Stokes, last year's Heisman winner, has another standout season, had a big game in the national championship, 1,600 yards, 17 TDs for him. And then Stingley, who also had a big game in the national championship. He actually led us in receptions this year, the true freshman speedster we brought in. Him and Camacho, 2 big additions to the offense. 65 catches, 1,100 yards, and 12 TDs for Stingley. And then Trader, the transfer that we brought in, helped us out with 585 yards, 6 touchdowns. Camacho also helped in the receiving game, 401 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then we got 4 TDs from John Stewart, who added 383 yards. Defensively, stood out with our linebacker Hawkins, 10 sacks. Caven Call, 8.5 sacks. Nixon, 8.5 sacks. So both of our ends, 8.5 sacks. Another linebacker, Presley, 7 sacks. Doug Penn, our freshman corner that we brought in, was probably our standout defensive recruit, 5.5 sacks for him, 5.5 for Downs, and 5 for Hayward. So multiple players over 5 sacks. And then interceptions, like I said, 41. So we racked up a ton. Chasen Johnson had 8. Eric Batista had 7. Batista including a big one in the natty. Doug Penn, though, the freshman I was talking about, 6 interceptions for the true freshman. I'm going to like him throughout his career. Christian Peterson with 5. So multiple players with over 5 interceptions there. And we talked about the success on special teams. But let's look at the stats of Coach JC here now that we head into the offseason, and I'll talk about the recruits that I'm getting in this class, which is looking to be a really good one coming up here in another video after I go through the offseason. But at UCF, he is 30-2 as a head coach. So, 2 years as the offensive coordinator there at Jackson State, where he had great success, and then moves into the head role at UCF and won back-to-back natties his first 2 years as a head coach. 30-2, 55-5 career record, 20-5 versus the top 25, 6-2 bowl record. So good stuff here from Coach JC. And just to let you guys know, so because I know some people always want to question, yes, we've been on Heisman, always playing this thing on Heisman. It's the only thing I play on this game, so I always keep that in mind as well. But that's what we did here in this year, and we're looking to try and hopefully make it 3 in a row at UCF. We'll see what happens, but there's the end-of-season update, end-of-season stats after the natty win over the Schittsburg Panthers for the UCF Knights. And Coach JC continues his meteoric rise as a head coach. 2 years as a head coach, 2 national championships, going back-to-back at UCF. So there you have it, the end-of-season update for 2027 here, year 4 for Coach JC. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this Coach JC Dynasty series here on College Football 25. If you're into this game, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the thumbs up button on the video before you head out. That helps this find more college football video game fans like yourself, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I always appreciate those interactions as well, just like I appreciate you tuning into this video, and I will catch you on the next one.